Ladies and gentlemen, dogs, cats, attack helicopters, and anyone else that is watching this video, welcome to the 2024 NBA Soggy Sports Mock Draft 3.0 Extravaganza Super Cool, really 100% accurate mock draft, okay? Yes. This is going to be a very official one. That my kind of big board is becoming more and more solidified. Now, it's not 100%. Things can change. The tournament still has to go on and things like that. But for the most part, my big board is getting pretty solidified throughout the entirety of it. And it is going to be very different from even the last mock draft I just made, I think a month or so ago. So things have changed since that one. And I figured it is time to make another mock draft. I really enjoy making these videos. And now, yes, obviously we're going to have different opinions on certain players, where you think certain players should go, why you think you would fit with a certain team. But in my mock drafts, if you haven't watched any in the past, it goes basically by, I think, the talent of them, where I rank them in the big boards, the need of a team on them, and then it keeps going down from the list from there. But mainly team need and talent is basically what I go off of, why a team should pick a certain player. And I'm going to go over and explain why I think each player for each team in the lottery is going to go where they need to go. So that does sound interesting. You please watch it all the way through. Without further ado, without running on too much, just get right into this video. And also, one more thing right before I do actually get into the mock draft itself. I used Tankathon to find the order. I didn't do the sim lottery thing. I just used their order that they currently had at the time. So that's why the order is the way it is. It's obviously the most likely order, but it's probably not going to be the exact order either. So yeah, I'm using Tankathon because although Tankathon has some of the worst mock drafts of all time on their thing, they do have pretty cool, like, a lottery system, and I think they're usually pretty accurate with that, so that's why I'm using them. I just want to get out of the way before anyone questions the order. But anyway, let's get right into the video. So with the first overall pick, we have the Washington Just Don't Be That Team Wizards, going with the #1 selection, and I have them picking Alex Sarr. Now, Alex Sarr is by far and away, in my opinion, the best player in this draft class. Now, yes, I know other people have different opinions on that, and they are very right to have their wrong opinions on this situation, but to me, it's not even close. Alex Sarr is by far the best player in this class. And to really add a cherry on top of this selection, that he also fills the position they desperately need to fill. Right now, I'm pretty sure their best center is Tristan Vucevic on their team, and he hasn't even played a game for them. I think they also have Rashawn Holmes, but honestly, I think Tristan's going to be better than him. And Tristan is a rookie who, like I said, I think is like 24 and has not played a game for them. So, I mean, he, at best, I think will be a role player, and he was their second-round pick last year. So, yeah, I think they desperately need a center, and with Alex Sarr being the best player in this class, on top of him being their biggest need, and on top of him being a potential superstar, in my opinion, I just think he overall fits every checklist item you need if you're the Wizards to pick him, and I think he'd be a perfect pick for this team going forward. And on top of that, in my opinion, he's going to be a franchise player, and I just don't think you can really go wrong with him. Now, he's not going to be Victor Wembanyama, but that is not a reason not to pick someone. Victor Wembanyama comes around once every, 30, 50 years, okay? You don't need, not every prospect needs to be Victor Wembanyama, and I think that's really going against him in this class, that he's not as good as him, but he is still an absolute beast and probably going to be a star-level player going in the future, and I just think overall he would be a perfect pick for the Wizards first overall. And now moving to the second overall pick, we have the Detroit Pistons making their, at this point, annual top 10 draft pick. It's for the 5th year in a row that they will probably be having a top 10 draft pick in the lottery. And I have them selecting Cody Williams. Now, outside of Cody Williams having the best first name of all time, Cody, because that's my name, he, in my opinion, fits his team exactly what they need. Not only can Cody Williams have legit star upside, in my opinion, but he also gives them a very solid two-way wing who can play defense and he can score the ball by himself offensively, which is very valuable for a team. And really, a scoring wing is all they're missing. Because yes, I like Azir Thompson. I think he's a beast on defense. I think he has a chance to become a 3-and-D guy and maybe even really become a slasher as well due to his elite athleticism. But I think Cody Williams, although not as good defensively, has a chance to be much better offensively, much quicker than Azir Thompson's going to develop. And his defense is, although not as good as his, is going to be very solid, and I think he could even be a great starting small forward for them going forward. And it also kind of just gives them a different element to their offense, because right now they have guys like Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey who are very perimeter oriented, who can pass the ball around and really score at any point where they can, jump shot wise. And then yes, they have Jalen Duren, who's a back to the basket, very athletic big, but Isaiah Stewart also can shoot the three and kind of is a floor spacing big. But I think Cody Williams, with how much pressure he puts on the rim, with his attacking, with his great layups and how much good touch he has around the rim, on top of being able to score from basically all three levels, I think he's going to really be able to add a whole different element to this team, and he will be a very good addition for the Detroit Pistons, and hopefully, by some act of God, he can finally be the piece to make this team not one of the worst in the NBA, because my God, it is getting hard to watch anything related to Detroit Piston basketball for the past few years, and hopefully, most likely not, but hopefully, this is the last time they will be in the top 10 for a very long time. In third overall, we're going to Texas in San Antonio, where I have the Spurs selecting Zachary Richardsauce, okay? I don't know how to say his name. I know I butchered it. I didn't even try. That's why I made the joke, so you wouldn't make fun of me. But yes, I do think Zachary will be a great addition to this team. He is exactly what they need. He's a very lengthy, two-way potential small forward. He desperately needs to put on muscle, but that's going to happen. Most rookies have to put on muscle, so I don't really think that's a valid critique of him. But he can score legitimately at all three levels. I think he has star potential. Like I said, he's a very good two-way player and has very high two-way potential, and I think it would give them a legitimate big three going forward of Devin Vassell, himself, and Victor Wembanyama, and I just think overall the San Antonio Victor Wembanyamas would benefit a great amount by adding him, because now it's going to take a lot of pressure off of Wembanyama, it's going to take a lot of pressure off of Vassell, and now you're going to have him. I just think overall he's going to fit perfectly with them, as a wing is basically what they need, and plus they have 2 picks in the lottery this year, and I think he is going to be a great addition for what they need, and they can fill other needs that of lesser importance, in my opinion, later in the lottery, which I'll be getting to a little bit later. And now number 4 overall, we have the Charlotte Hornets selecting Mateusz Bezelis out of the G League. Once again, probably butchered his name, I'm aware. Don't comment it, okay? I'm just trying to get ahead of it because I know what's coming. It happens every time I make one of these videos. But anyway, Mateusz Bezelis, in my opinion, is a very, very talented big. He's kind of Dirk-esque. Now, he's not as big and strong as Dirk, but once again, I don't think that's a valid critique because they're all going to get bigger and stronger as their careers progress. But overall, I just think he's a very offensively talented player. He can shoot the three at a high level. He has a great fadeaway game, and he can also score, obviously, layups and dunks and do other things that big men can do. But I also think he's going to fit very well with Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball, because right now, LaMelo Ball obviously not playing due to an injury, but when they're fully healthy, Brandon Miller has shown that he is an all-star level scorer. LaMelo Ball has shown that he's an all-star level point guard when he's healthy, and with his passing ability, I think it's going to take a lot of pressure off of Mateusz himself, and he's going to see a lot of one-on-one opportunities, because they're not going to leave Miller or LaMelo to go guard him, especially not his rookie year. So if he is able to be as good of an offensive player as I think he could be, with all those one-on-one opportunities and how much more offensively talented I think he is than a lot of bigs in this league, I think Mateusz is going to be a very, very valuable piece to them, and overall would be a great addition and could legit form a big three that is very young and going to the forward could be very, very successful for them. And obviously this is assuming that Miles Bridges is going to be leaving the team. There's been tons of rumors. Some people thought he was going to be traded, and then there's rumors that he was 100% gone in the offseason. So assuming Miles Bridges isn't there, he's going to be able to fill that gap right away, and I think he's going to be a huge piece of what they do going forward, and just overall is going to be a great addition to this Charlotte Hornets team. And now 5th overall, we have the Portland Trailblazers selecting Ron Holland, also out of the G League. He's Mateusz's teammate. Now, unfortunately, Ron Holland is currently injured, but he will be healthy by the start of the next season. And in my opinion, him going to number 5 in the beginning of this year probably would not have been a conceivable option, as a lot of people thought he was the best prospect by far, or at least top 2 with Alex Sarr. But with his injury and him kind of having weird G League stats, not being able to shoot the three as good as people probably thought he could and things like that, they did show a lot of kind of hesitancy to put him in that top 2 or keep him there, especially after his injury, and that's why I have him falling to number 5. But I personally think he'll fit very, very well with Portland, because a guy like Jeremy Grant, in my opinion, who is their current power forward, is probably getting traded next year. Let's be honest, he's just not on the timeline that Portland currently is, and I think you can still get a good amount of value for someone like Grant, and they'll probably let him go or trade him for a good bit of value. And once they do that, someone like Ron Holland, who's also a freak athlete, could definitely kind of fill in that place. And now you'd be adding other freak athletes with Sharp and Scoot Henderson, who are already some of the best athletes in the NBA. Now you're adding Ron Holland, who will once again also be one of the best athletes in the NBA. So they're going to be one of the most athletic, active defensive teams in the entire league if they were to make this pick. And I just think overall he would fit them extremely, extremely well, because like I said, they're going to be very, very young, and they could have a starting lineup that looks something like Scoot Henderson, Anfernee Simons, Chris Murray, Ron Holland, and DeAndre Ayton next year. And although do I think that's a playoff lineup? No, but I do think it will be a very fun lineup, a very young lineup, and just an overall very energetic, highly athletic, and it's going to be very, very fun to watch and build around as the years goes on. And it also, like I said, makes Grant tradable. It opens the possibility to other things. I just think overall this team would be getting a very, very solid player with Ron Holland, who even has legit superstar upside if he can get that jump shot down like we have seen him show signs of in the past. And now number 6 overall, we have the Memphis Grizzlies going with Dalton Knecht out of Tennessee. Now, before I get any farther in this video, let me say fuck these names in this draft class so far, okay? They are very, very hard to pronounce. And like, I know Dalton Knecht, that's probably not how you say his name, but it's gonna be how I say it from now on, so don't get mad. But Dalton, in my opinion, fills by far their weakest position at small forward. He'll probably take Zaire Williams' spot, who's definitely struggled since he's been picked for the and has not developed the way that Memphis probably wanted him to develop. And I think Dalton's going to be able to replace him, but he is a great three-point shooter who can legitimately score when he needs to. When he has the ball, he can create his own shot, but he's also a sniper from 3. He's very big. He has two-way upside. In my opinion, could legit be a star-level player if he develops perfectly. Will most likely be a high-level role player for his career. And I just think overall he would be a great addition to this team with guys like Marcus Smart already on there, guys like Ja Morant when they're healthy, Jaren Jackson Jr. I think Dalton is going to have a lot of open shots and really be able to do his thing on the offensive side of the ball, and just overall he would be an amazing addition to this team. I think he would fit them almost perfectly. And now with the 7th overall pick, we have the San Antonio Spurs with their 2nd pick in this lottery, this one being from the Toronto Raptors. Now keep in mind, they already added Zachary Rissersauce on their team, so I now have them feeling their 2nd biggest need, which is point guard. Now yes, Tyus Jones is fine, but I think his ceiling leaves a little bit to be desired, and I think he is a better backup point guard option than he is as a starter in this league, especially if you're trying to win at a high level in the playoffs. And that's why I have them selecting Isaiah Collier out of USC. Now, this could be a fairly controversial thing, especially with having him over guys like Rob Dillingham and other things. And this isn't so much me saying that I think Collier is better than Dillingham. It's more the fact that I think he fits what the Spurs need a lot better. As Isaiah Collier is much more of a traditional point guard, in the fact that he likes to pass the ball, but he can also play defense on anyone. He's very strong for a point guard, and he kind of has very good two-way potential, which you love to see because defense is extremely important, especially in a Greg Popovich system with guys like Victor Wembanyama and Sochan on there. They obviously value defense a lot, and I think Isaiah Collier could fit into that mold perfectly with how strong he is and how good of a defense he can be. But on top of that, he can also score at a very high level. So I think with his court vision being very good, that's going to help him and Victor Wembanyama a lot. You really go in the pick and roll game, that could be almost unstoppable. And then Devin Vassell kind of spreading the floor for them would be huge. And then on top of that, with how good he is on defense, or at least potentially could be on defense and rebounding, I think he can do a little bit of everything at that point guard position and could just overall be a great addition to this team. And with a guy like Zachary Rissersauce as their small forward at the time, they would have a very, very fun starting lineup that looks something like Isaiah Collier, Devin Vassell, Zachary, Jeremy Sochan, and Victor Wembanyama. And in my opinion, that is a very, very interesting lineup. And not even to mention, they have guys like Branham, Devontae Graham, Keldon Johnson, all off their bench, and they can just do so many things with that roster at that point. And I think with how young they are, with how much high upside they have, it would be very hard not to be excited about a San Antonio Spurs team that added Zachary and Isaiah Collier to it. And I just think overall, they would be filling two huge needs that they currently have, and would be filling them for a very long time as well. And I just think overall, it would really put them on a trajectory to go where they want to go. And 8th overall, we have the Houston Rockets using the Brooklyn Nets pick, selecting Rob Dillingham. Now, Rob Dillingham, in my opinion, has Tyrese Maxey-like upside. I think he's an absolute beast on the offensive end. His confidence is insane. He's just overall probably going to be one of the best scoring guards out of this entire class. And overall, I think he'd be a great spark plug for them off their bench. And I think they're building something very special in Houston. They're already having a much better season than we've seen them in the very recent past. And I think their future is even brighter with Jalen Green showing promise, with Jabari Smith showing promise, with Cam Whitmore looking like a beast, with Amin Thompson being a very good defender and him probably going to be one of their hustle guys going forward. If you're adding Rob Dillingham to that, I think this team is going to keep getting younger, keep getting better and better and better as time goes on, and I just think they're really building something special. And even in the long run, he will probably be a Fred VanVleet replacement because he's probably the one guy that's not on their timeline. And I just think overall this would be a huge addition to this team and would add a beast of a scorer off their bench in the short term as well. And now 9th overall, we're going to the Utah, give the New Orleans Pelicans their name back, Jazz, and I have them selecting Justin Edwards. Now, something kind of interesting with this pick is there is a very real chance this pick could go to Oklahoma City if it isn't in the top 10, which is a very real thing that could happen once the lottery is done. And if that does happen, Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that was the 1 seed for a very long time in the Western Conference and is currently, I think, the 2nd or 3rd seed, is going to have 2 lottery picks. That is insane, by the way. That just shows you how crazy OKC's GM and how good they've handled this team. But I just wanted to get out of the way how crazy it is that they could have 2 lottery picks. But if the lottery happens, how it is likely to happen, the Utah Jazz will be picking here with the 9th overall pick, and I have them selecting, like I said, Justin Edwards. Now, Justin Edwards is a guy that I'm not sure that when I do a final mock draft, he's going to go in my lottery, but he is a guy that I know is going to be a solid NBA player, and although I don't think his ceiling is super high, I do think he is a very, very solid player. He can play both ways. He can score from all 3 levels. He's a 3-and-D type guy. He has offensive upside, and I just think overall he's going to be an extremely solid player basically no matter where he goes. And a big problem with the Utah Jazz is I have no idea what they're going to look by the time it comes down around to draft time, and I have no idea what options and trades they're going to make going down the line going into next year, because I think Sexton will most likely get traded. I think there's a chance Laurie gets traded. I think there's a good chance John Collins gets traded, and there's just so many different moving pieces. Like Jordan Clarkson could be gone. There's just so many different moving pieces with this team, and then you add on the fact that I think Taylor Hendricks and Bryce Sensabaugh are going to be great players for them going down the line, so I don't want to pick a big or a shooting guard that's going to take minutes away from them, because I think it would just stunt their growth, because I think Hendricks is a beast, and I think Bryce Sensabaugh is a beast. So I just think overall this team is going to be very, very solid going in the future, and they already have a very nice young core, and I just think I picked a guy that was safe and would plug into basically any team, and that is why I went with Justin Edwards. And now 10th overall, we're going to Georgia, where we have the Atlanta Hawks. Now this is probably going to be the first controversial pick. If you're not deep into the draft like I am, I'm 168 prospects deep right now, okay, by myself. Like I know basically every possible NBA prospect going into next season, and I have them selecting Jalen Tyson out of the University of California. Now, if you don't know who he is, you're probably very mad that I have this unknown guy to you on here, but to me, Jalen Tyson is legitimately one of the best wings in this class. He's a very, very high potential 2-way level player. He can legitimately score from all 3 levels. I think he has potential star upside, and he is a kind of like Jalen Johnson type guy. Now, yes, Jalen Johnson in his draft class was made much more known because he was in Duke, and he was just a very high prospect, hyped up, but he kind of fell in his draft class because he got injured. Not a lot of people liked him, and now look where he is. I was very high on him, and he's an absolute beast, and a lot of people were dogging on me that I was so high on him, and now I'm very high on Jalen Tyson, and I think he is going to be a great player once he goes to the NBA, and I just think he's going to be one of those guys that a lot of teams are going to be like, why did we pass up on him? And I just think he would fit really good with Atlanta, especially because Atlanta has drafted a lot of guards in the past draft class. They have Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, Kobe Buffkin, AJ Griffin, and they also have one other one, Seth Lundy. And they just have so many guards. I could not make myself pick a guard. I think Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu were perfectly fine as their big men. And I think DeAndre Hunter is a good wing, and I think and Jalen Johnson as well. So I really think the only thing they were missing was a wing that can score off the bench, and a guy that's not going to try to take up a lot of shots and not going to need the ball in his hand at all times to impact the floor. And that is why I have them picking Jalen Tyson here. And now 11th overall, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder using Houston's pick at the right here, and I have them picking Kyle Filipkowski. And now the fact that they have a lottery pick in general is crazy, and like I said, the fact that they have a chance to get 2 is insane. And the reason I have them selecting Kyle Filipkowski out of Duke is because I think Filipkowski basically fills the one hole this team has. They're already one of the most well-built teams. They have Chet Holmgren, who's a beast of their center. He's going to be their starting center for a very long time. They have Jalen Williams, who's going to continue to be their power forward. They have guys like Legence Dort, Shai Gilgeous, and Josh Giddey, who are all 3 probably going to be starters next year for them. But I think Kyle Filipkowski off the bench will probably be one of the best backup bigs in the entire NBA. And on top of that, although he doesn't have the shot blocking ability and the length and the height that someone like Chet has, he does have the offensive talent at the big man position. Not as good as Chet, obviously, but a very talented offensive big. And I think he could really help kind of emulate what Chet Holmgren does when he comes in the game, and would be a great backup big for them, and he would fit them perfectly. And I just think overall, the Oklahoma City Thunder can get him, and then they have a bench of Cason Wallace, Gordon Hayward, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, Kyle Filipkowski. That team's future is just so unreal if they can develop the way they should develop and keep drafting correctly. And if they are able to get their hands on Filipkowski here at 11th overall, I just think this team is going to be so perfectly set up for the future, and that I just don't see a world where the next 3 to 4 years are not competing for championships consistently. And now going 12th overall, we have the Chicago Bulls selecting Jackson Jackson Robinson out of BYU. Once again, one of those guys that probably not everyone is super familiar with, but Jackson Robinson, in my opinion, is kind of a guy that's going to be just an elite three-point shooter. He's a very solid athlete. He can create his own shot when he needs to, and he's just kind of very Trey Murphy-esque. Now, he's not as athletic as Trey Murphy was, but he's still, I think, like a 6'8" guy who can shoot the three at a very high level. And in today's NBA, you can never have enough shooting. And Chicago's kind of like Utah. They're one of those teams that I have zero idea of what this team is going to look like by the time next year starts. Like, Chicago could easily completely blow it up once they get rid of Zach LaVine. They could try to keep contending, and if they do keep trying to contend, I think having a great shooter like him would be very valuable. And even if they blow it up, I think having a guy that's Trey Murphy-esque is extremely valuable to try to develop and give a lot of minutes. So I just think overall, no matter what they go with, Jackson Robinson would be a pretty safe pick for them and would be probably pretty solid therefore. And I think at worst, you're getting an elite sniper from the three-point line, and at best, you're getting a guy that can develop into someone like Trey Murphy, who is one of the best role players in the entire NBA. And now 13th overall, we have the Portland Trailblazers selecting Stephon Castle out of UConn. Now, Stephon Castle is a guy in the beginning of the year before the season started I loved him as a prospect coming out of high school. Now, his three-point percentage has kind of fallen off, and he hasn't been the level of scorer that I thought he was, but towards the end of his freshman season this year, he has looked much better, and that's why I have him back in my back end lottery, and I could see him even moving up a little bit maybe by the time the official mock draft does come out. So I do think Stephon Castle is a very high upside guard, and keep in mind, I already had them selecting Ron Holland, who I have as the third best player in this entire class right now. So I think they already would be getting two super high upside guards, and I mean prospects, should I say, because obviously Ron Holland's not a guard. And so overall, I just think with Portland's trajectory right now, they're definitely going to be a team that's not great next year, but they're going to have a lot of young talent and probably be a fun team to watch when healthy. And I just think overall, someone like Stephon Castle could really fit with this team, because I do think they will probably end up moving on from Anfernee Simons only because I don't think he's in their immediate future. I think they want to develop Scoot, and they probably are going to want to develop Stephon Castle if they draft him. So I think for sure with Stephon Castle's athleticism, his scoring ability, and his offensive upside, he's a guy that you should want at this 13th overall, and just overall could be a potential long-term starter alongside Scoot Henderson, and that would probably really intrigue a team like Portland. They could go a few different directions. I just personally think with depending on how Portland looks going into next year, if they trade guys, get rid of guys, sign guys, I just think overall Portland would be kind of beneficial to go with a guy like Stephon Castle. And now with the last pick in the lottery, we have the New Orleans Pelicans using the Los Angeles Lakers pick to select Hunter Dickinson out of Michigan. Now, I could have went a few different ways here. I could have went with Orich Kamatachi, however you say his name. I could have went with a few other bigs as well, but I think 100% the Pelicans would be selecting a big here, and Hunter Dickinson is the most like Jonas Valanciunas in my opinion. Now, Orich would have been a swing for the fence, home run type of guy, which I wouldn't mind them doing at all, because that is literally their one hole, and I am pretty high on Orich, not gonna lie, but Hunter Dickinson I think is way safer of a pick, and also he resembles Jonas Valanciunas so much to the point to where I think there would be very little drop off for when he's out or versus when he's in. Now, yes, he does leave a little to be desired on the perimeter defense and things like that, but so does Jonas, and they're very able to survive with that, and he would be only playing spot backup minutes, or even if Jonas gets hurt, which is very rare, but if he did go down, they would have a guy that could very easily replace him and play a very similar style basketball, which is very valuable for consistency reasons. And I just think overall Hunter Dickinson, with his ability to space the floor, he's very strong, he's pretty offensively talented in the paint for a big, and he's just overall can do everything: block shots, rebound, strong, and I think he's only going to get better as his years go on, and he's going to be ready to play right away with him being a senior. So I just think overall Hunter Dickinson would fit this team very well, and like I said, backup big is basically the only position this team doesn't have. It's currently Cody Zeller or Larry Nance Jr., and honestly, I mean, Larry Nance is very solid, but Cody Zeller is not it, okay? And if you look at every other backup position on this team, they are a very deep team, and they pretty much have it already solidified, if not even very much over solidified when you look at some positions. So I think a backup big is where they would go, and Hunter Dickinson is the guy for the Pelicans. But unfortunately, guys, that's my first video. So comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you think that this is what the mock draft would look like? What do you think these teams should do? I want your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like, point to like button and subscribe button, mean the absolute word to me. And I hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day, so you need a blessed day. All glory to God. See you next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.